Hi, I'm Tim, welcome to the Restoration Couple. Today's job is to make another oak lintel. So if you remember, about 2 or 3 weeks ago we sorted out that oak beam for my brother's living room fireplace. It essentially was just a chunk of oak which we planed and smoothed and finished to mount on the wall. This one's a little bit more tricky. This one's going to be almost like a box beam, or at least an L shape, because it's going to cap over an existing sort of plastered square opening above their range cooker. Unfortunately, I've got this nice piece of air dried oak which I've been holding back, but it's quite twisted at the end there. So although I can get the main face of it, which we need, this is my mark here, so we've got kind of 1100 as our face. The bit where it turns in underneath, I can't use that warped bit down there. What I do have is some old worktop from when we did our kitchen, and I can get away with using a section of this, I think. I'm going to see if we can get some square edges on this. Oh man, I look like Bono. Not sure how well you can see looking into the light, but it's taken off the centre section now. So we're already smooth there, but we've still got the rough sawn on the edges, so we'll just keep going until we're flat all the way across. It looks like a nice piece of wood, this. Relatively square board now. It'd be much easier if I had a planer to pass this across to joint the edges, but we haven't got that luxury. So I've done the first side just with a hand plane to get it as flat as I can, and then I tried putting it through on its edge through the thicknesser to do the top edge, and that's worked pretty well. I think it's certainly as good as it needs to be for this sort of rustic look anyway. So there's a bit of sanding to do, and I probably will use that hand scraper again to just kind of give a little bit of undulation to the wood, just so there's a few kind of scrapes to it, but still keep it smooth. That's the raw materials done, planed up. I had to plane this one as well because I really wanted to get a tight join between the two. This will be hidden, this section here, but underneath, if you did decide to lie on the kitchen floor and look up underneath, then you might see it. So that's what I'm checking for now. So the main front is all sanded, chamfered the edge with the plane. It's not a good idea to try and get it too flat and perfect. At the end of the day, their house is 1930s and it's probably been plastered, you know, skimmed a handful of times. There's a good chance that if I get this really flat in the middle, it could be even further off at the edges. So I think it's better to wait and see what it's like when we get there. Worst comes to worst, we can just scribe a little bit out of either the oak or to chip away a bit of the plaster. But you know, 1 mil is probably probably fine as a tolerance, and actually this will probably move a little bit over the next few weeks as it acclimatizes. Really, it should sit in their kitchen for, you know, a few weeks before we fit it up. But so when we did the kitchen a few years ago, a few questions about why I bothered to finish the back of the worktops before we laid them. And the reason for that is simply because if you only treat one side, the amount of moisture and kind of the humidity that gets to the wood will be different on both sides, which can lead to it cupping or warping. So sometimes when you see oak worktops that have been fit in a kitchen, but a few years later they're all a bit bent and warped, usually that's because when they were installed, they were cut, installed, and then everyone just kind of carried on oiling the tops or whatever they were doing on the tops, and the bottom is completely bare. So because this is right above the oven as well, and there's going to be steam and stuff, I want to make sure that the back is just as sealed as the front, so the whole thing stays as stable as possible. Also, when you're fixing wood to something, solid wood, then ideally you want to over drill, you know, give a bit of a clearance hole on your fixings, because the wood will want to move a little bit and you want to allow it to move, really. So that's it, built. It looks pretty simple, and I guess it is, but it took a couple of hours. The rest of it I'll need to do when I'm there, to just measure up and tweak it, and also work out how exactly we're going to fit it to the opening. So what we are going to do is, there's brick pillars either side and there's stud-work in the middle above the oven. So there are going to be two fixings into the brickwork at either end, and they'll actually be visible. So rather than trying to hide them and do it that way, I'm actually going to drill holes, put some big fixings into the brick wall, and then dowel them and probably cut them flush and sand them out. But otherwise we might make a feature of those and just have them as little pegs sticking out. And then of course on the back, because it's not going to be exactly snug up against the existing stud work, it's going to be set down a bit. We'll need to put a bit of batten or kind of 50mm square timber to the underside of the opening, and then we'll fix this up into it, hopefully in a hidden way. Worst comes to worst, we can put 3 fixings in the bottom, and again we'll just get a plug cutter and cut some oak and fill them that way. So I just need to make sure that when I take this, I take a few offcuts from the same timber so that we can cut and plug the holes when we get there. So we'll pick this project up in the next video, where I'm going to go up and install it tomorrow. I'm also going to do a bit of filming up there anyway, because they've done a full renovation on their house and I'm yet to actually see the work they've done. So hopefully we can get a few videos put together documenting what they've done on their place. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give us a thumbs up. But for now, remember, if you can, do it yourself, and we'll see you next time.